have another quote for you. Today is just a ton of quotes. This one is from Maxwell Maltz, and it reads, "Often the difference between a successful man and a failure is not one's better abilities or ideas, but the courage that one has to bet on his ideas, to take calculated risk, and to act. So, do you relate to that? And I can read it again if you want. I kind of read it a little bit too fast.
I think it helps if the idea is good to begin with. Confidence, and we were talking about that earlier. I think confidence does help a lot, but if your idea is bad, then being persistent and loud about it is not going to get you that far either. Like, I like people a lot that are quieter and have great ideas, and I know I have to pay good attention because they won't point out how great their ideas are. So I have to kind of listen because I know the diamonds are in there and they won't scream them into my face. But it's probably true that a lot of great ideas just die because someone doesn't have that feeling to project it to the world, or the persistence. It's also hard because the first couple of reactions might be negative that you get to something, where you are pitching it to someone and maybe the pitch of how you describe the idea isn't completely worked out yet and you're just trying it out, and then you get negative feedback. And I could imagine that shuts a lot of people down. I think that's a very sensitive thing. Your audience for your unfinished ideas is something that people maybe are not as conscious about as they should be. That it's as if you're giving someone a raw egg, and you kind of want to know that they will be careful with that raw egg and not just destroy it because they don't get it or because they want their opinion in there quicker. There's also in test screenings, I think there are different groups of people, but one group of people is always, they won't tell you what they think about your movie. They will tell you what movie they would have made or wish you had made. And you always want to say, like, that's not the movie I made, So I think if you come with an idea to that crowd, then you will get discouraged very soon. But on the other hand, there is the danger of not going out with an unfinished idea to a test audience early enough and kind of keeping it, being very protective of it and working on it and not wanting to expose it to the world until you feel it's the best version of what it can be. And then when you show it to the world, they will react to it and you'll go like, oh damn, I wish I had heard that comment 4 weeks ago when it was still flexible and I could still do something with it. Now it's so rigid and the whole thing will fall apart if I integrate that idea that I just heard from someone. But back then it would have changed everything. So I think over the years I've gone out to people earlier and earlier, and by now with the very first idea, and see how they respond, because it can change so much, and just to bounce people off of ideas off of people, I think is a huge valuable tool. And to know people well enough to know in what ways they're bouncing it back to you.
Do you have to put on the extrovert hat when you do that? Being an introvert or being more internal?
Not necessarily the extrovert hat, because I'm not a salesman. If the idea can't sell itself in that moment, then it's probably not a good idea. But you definitely need a thick skin. Like, there's nothing, I never feel more humiliated and stabbed in the back than after a test screening. But that's what test screenings are for. You don't you don't invite people to a test screening just for everyone to say, like, that was great, have a good day. You want them to say, I was bored, I was offended, that didn't work, what the hell were you thinking about? And to hear that from 20 people, whether they're your best friends or strangers, doesn't matter. It's always an emotional catastrophe, because I think a story puts out your view of the world out there. No matter what that story is, the way you handle performances, the editing rhythm, the color scheme, everything about it always revealed something about you as a person and how you see the world. So now you present that and you are suddenly the raw egg. You don't have any protection against that, and everyone is just bashing it, and making you feel like you are the dumbest person in the world. They don't intend to. They have the feeling they are very sensitive and careful. But of course, what you are hearing, you don't hear any of the positive stuff. You only hear, or at least me, I only hear the negative stuff. So I'm never more depressed than the night after a test screening. But it always is one of the most important steps, that test screening. The first one, a catastrophe, just get through it. It's like a traffic accident. And then test screening by test screening, it gets a little better, a little better, a little better. And I think the goal, at first when I was test screening my first movie, I thought the goal was to make all negative comments go away. Like, I know I have a great movie and I've tested it enough if no one has anything negative to say about it anymore, which is nonsense, because you could do that until the end of time and it wouldn't ever happen. So by now it's like, if everyone has a different complaint about the movie, then I know I have a good movie. It just has to be a different complaint from everyone. If that person hates the movie for that reason, and that guy hates that actor in it, and that guy hates the score, and that guy, that's okay, as long as it's not 25 people hating the same actor, or the same score, or the same whatever. You just want it kind of to spread the criticism and to dissolve itself. But there was a learning process to arrive there, that you'll never have a completely positive feedback to anything.
Well, going back to the quote that I opened the question with, can you think of any calculated risk that you've taken? You know, since your time, you know, you came out here, you went to AFI. Any calculated risk, knowing that you do think things, and I relate to that school of thought. It's not a criticism, believe me, I'm very much in that same camp. But when you overthink and you want to make sure that you plan things, can you think of any time where you, because I just heard a quote in a documentary that I saw, and the guy said, you know, directors they're reckless people. I thought, wow, that's interesting, because reckless isn't necessarily a bad thing. It could actually be a good thing.
I just had a conversation with a director friend of mine where we were both saying a variation of that, which was, directors are arrogant people, because we assume that we have something to say to the world that is worth having millions pumped into it. We have a message for the world that will be so valuable to the world that someone should give us $5 million so that we can tell it. That's delusional, if you think about it. That is like a crazy, crazy mindset, and yet directors have that. I don't know where it's coming from, or why people accept it, or what it is, but we both were in agreement that we're kind of off that way, or that the idea is kind of off. You have to believe in your own abilities, or how special you are, or your idea is, or something, to a degree that is not normal, I think. And that's not the same as self-confidence, because I don't think I'm a very self-confident person. I'm definitely not an extrovert. I'm not a director personality necessarily in itself, but there's something where an idea drives you and doesn't let you sleep and just grabs you and wants to be heard somehow, and then you become the vehicle of that idea, and maybe that is what gives you the impetus to say, like, it's not just me thinking that I'm a genius and I can tell the story. It's like the story wants to be told and it doesn't leave me alone, so I'll have to do that. That's more my experience of it.
Right. So keeping in the same vein, what if someone told Elon Musk, you know, these ideas that you're having about this car and some of this, you know, it's just, you pipe down, just why don't you go work for a manufacturer?
Well, I don't think it would do any harm, because he has had successes. I think where it's dangerous is when it's your first step into unknown territory, and you know that it's unknown territory. It's something you've never done, and you're coming out of your shell and you're out of your comfort zone, and then that person, whoever that person is, comes up and say, why don't you do A, B, and C? That is dangerous if then people listen to it, because there has to be failure in the beginning, right? And there has to be, and that's why film school is maybe one of the big assets. I think Stephen King said that in that book that he wrote about filmmaking, that he said the one advantage he can see in film schools is that you can call yourself a filmmaker, that no one can laugh at you, and you have the space and room to fail. And I wish I had seen that in film school, because I was so tense in film school. It all felt like as if you can win film school. You know, film school shouldn't be there to be won, or for you to be the most talented in your class and to show the world and to show Hollywood. It should really be, and I think they're doing a good job trying to protect it as much as possible. It should be a time where you are allowed to try stuff and fail and see what doesn't work. It's like that Edison quote where he said he found 900 methods to not invent a light bulb, and, you know, before he found the one that actually worked. So it's the same there. yeah, so I think the Elon Musk would probably be fine. I wouldn't be too worried about Elon Musk at this point.